The Pope just blinked. He frankly folded like a cheap lawn chair. He came out of the gate swinging. He called Trump a tyrant in everything but name. For a full week, the media was absolutely drunk on the idea that the first American Pope was going to be the moral hammer that finally brought down Donald J. Trump. But then something happened. Trump pushed back hard. And within a matter of days, hours even, Pope Leo XIV, to the horror of the legacy media, walked it all back. Make sure to stick with me to the very end of this video, because not only did this Pope blink, but we're going to see how he just said something about immigration that has the political left completely in shock. Wait until you see this. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you make sense of the madness with breaking news and analysis you're not going to get anywhere else. So you know what to do. Make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. Also, if you want to support this channel and not just watch from the sidelines, the Courageous Patriot Club is our private club where patriots from all over the world connect, pray, and stand together. Every Monday night, I go live inside that community and take your questions and answer them one by one. Scan the QR code and join the club today to step inside our members-only portal and stand shoulder to shoulder with us. All right, gang, so let's recap what happened, because the media is desperately trying to spin this obvious mea culpa on the part of the Pope. So just a week ago, Pope Leo XIV, the former Robert Francis Prevost of Chicago, was on the warpath. Back on April 12th, just days after meeting with former Obama strategist David Axelrod, the Pope declared that the world was being devastated by a handful of tyrants, a line the entire international press corps immediately read as a shot directly at President Trump and his Iran policy. The Pope doubled down in Algiers. He tripled down in Cameroon. He told reporters he had no fear of the Trump administration. The Rolling Stones and the CNNs of the world were giddy. USA Today ran breathless pieces about how Trump's feud with the Pope was dividing Catholics. Al Jazeera, of all places, cheered the Pope on as showing the world how to stand up to Trump. I mean, the legacy media was utterly shameless in all of this. The globalist left had found their new champion, and once again, like Francis before him, it was a liberal leftist Pope. Even Bill Maher was a bit taken back by how both the Democrats and the media had suddenly found this new unlikely hero in the papacy. And then Trump did what he always does. He didn't flinch. He didn't apologize. He got on True Social and he called Leo weak on crime, terrible for foreign policy, and said flat out, I don't want a Pope who critiques the President of the United States. Trump even reposted, if you can believe, we talked about this last week, he even reposted the Pope's now deleted X account that was full of these ridiculous far-left retweets and approvals. Again, you weren't supposed to see those posts. The Vatican had the account deleted, but it was very clear that Prevost has a left-wing activist bent to his politics, and Trump exposed it for all to see. And then, after several days of this, something remarkable happened.
There's been a certain narrative that has not been accurate in all of its aspects, but because of the political situation created when on the first day of the trip, the President of the United States made some comments about myself. Much of what has been written since then has been more commentary on commentary, trying to interpret what has been said. Just one little example, the talk that I gave at the prayer meeting for peace a couple of days ago was prepared 2 weeks ago, well before the president ever commented on myself and on the message of peace that I am promoting. And yet, as it happens, it was looked at as if I was trying to debate again the president, which is not my interest at all.
So that was the Pope this weekend aboard the papal plane from Cameroon to Angola, completely, totally, unmistakably standing down. What you just heard there was not the language of a fearless shepherd rebuking Caesar. That's the language of a man who just got his nose bloodied and is looking for the nearest exit. And if you can believe it, he did the unthinkable. When in Cameroon, the Pope actually told graduating students not to emigrate to other countries, i.e. Europe, but to stay in their own nations and work to make them better.
Chers fils et filles du Cameroun, chers étudiants, face à cette tendance compréhensible à vouloir émigrer, qui peut laisser croire que l'on trouvera facilement ailleurs un avenir meilleur, je vous invite avant tout à reprendre par un désir ardent de servir votre pays et de mettre au service de vos concitoyens les connaissances que vous êtes en train d'acquérir ici.
You literally can't make this stuff up. After openly criticizing the Trump administration's border security policies, Leo is now telling African populations to honor those border security policies. Something's going on here that's far bigger than any spat. Yes, we just had the first American Pope in 2,000 years of church history deliberately try to leverage American Catholics away from the Trump coalition. Again, his tyrant comments and his criticisms of Trump came just days after his meeting with David Axelrod, right, Obama's right-hand man. But what the Pope just did there does reveal something that goes way beyond desperate Democrat antics. Something far bigger is afoot here, and it's going to absolutely blow you away. But first, when we think about war, we picture soldiers in battlefields, but the real damage doesn't stay contained. Take a look at what modern warfare looks like.
Why is this town covered in spider webs? And yes, this is real. The answer is those are not spider webs. That is fiber optic cable. And that is what warfare looks like in 2026. To prevent the drones from being jammed, they trail behind them mile after mile of fiber optic cable. And now the landscape is absolutely covered in thousands of miles of this cable.
And it's not just these fiber optic cables. Every time a missile goes off or a bomb explodes, microplastic particles are released into the upper atmosphere and spread globally, making their way into the air we breathe and the food we eat. Because they're so small, they get absorbed into the bloodstream and our organs, where they build up over time, triggering inflammation and increasing the risk of heart disease, cancers, and even Alzheimer's. But here's what's incredible. New research is now showing that certain probiotics found only in kimchi can bind to these microplastics and help remove them from the body. The results showed that people taking the kimchi-derived probiotic were clearing out nearly twice as many microplastics. And it doesn't stop there. Another study found that a specific strain in kimchi, Bacillus pumilus, can break down BPA, one of the most toxic chemicals in plastic. Now, what that means is your body actually has the ability to get rid of toxins, but only when your gut is balanced and functioning the way it's supposed to. But here's the challenge. Most people aren't eating kimchi consistently enough to get those benefits. So that's why Brightcore created Kimchi 1, with over 900 plus strains of beneficial bacteria that deliver all the benefits of real kimchi in convenient capsules, no taste, no smell. It's all non-GMO, 100% made right here in the USA. Today, you can try Kimchi 1 by clicking the link below for 25% off your entire order, or for the best deal available, call my friends at Brightcore. Give them a call, and you're going to get 50% off plus free shipping. Call them now at 888-597-0233. That's 888-597-0233. Vice President J.D. Vance, a gentleman and Catholic to the end, graciously accepted the Pope's surrender. He went on X and said, quote, "I'm grateful to Pope Leo for saying this. While the media narrative constantly gins up conflict, and yes, real disagreements have happened and will happen, the reality is often much more complicated." And he added that Pope Leo preaches the gospel as he should, and that will inevitably mean he offers his opinions on the moral issues of the day. The president and the entire administration work to apply those moral principles in a messy world. That's a class act, very classy response. But that said, we don't want to miss what just happened here. If you don't know, The Vatican has spent the last century cultivating a carefully curated image of what's called permanent neutrality. The Holy See depicts itself as the peaceful sovereign, the moral conscience above the political fray, the honest broker between East and West. That posture was formalized back in the Lateran Pacts of 1929, and it's been the Vatican's calling card ever since. But here's the problem, and this is what every honest Catholic intellectual has been screaming about for decades now. In recent years, that neutrality has been systematically co-opted by the far left. The Cardinal Vance Observatory for the Social Doctrine of the Church published a stunning analysis last year arguing that the Vatican has aligned itself with what it called a, quote, totalitarian and elitist post-democracy managed by leadership in the American Democrat Party and converging with the WEF in Davos, the European Commission, and even the World Health Organization, the WHO. Again, this is the conclusion of this recent study on the Vatican's policies and organizational ties. So in plain English, it means that the Vatican's neutrality is a fiction. It still hides behind the perception of neutrality, like all liberal globalist institutions do, but it is consistently against the political right. The Vatican's statements are consistently biased against nationalism, against populism, against Trump. And this is because the Vatican has largely been co-opted by international leftist sentiments and organizations and is emphatically not neutral. It consistently champions left-wing causes, open borders. It champions global governance. It champions the most extreme, radical, green climate alarmism. On those issues, the Vatican speaks with one voice, and that voice sounds an awful lot like Davos with vestments. But what this also reveals is that the political left recognizes the extraordinary significance of a massive global trend happening right now as we speak, involving the rise of what's called theopolitics. You've heard of geopolitics. Well, more and more we're seeing a world governed by theopolitics. We're seeing it right now in the Persian Gulf with the war with a theocracy by an Abraham Accords alliance. Theopolitics is the reemergence of religion as central to both domestic policies and international relations. The progressive wing of the Catholic Church, which has dominated the Vatican bureaucracy since Vatican II, understands perfectly well that if Catholic voters in Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin stay with Trump and J.D. Vance in 2028, the liberal project in America is pretty much finished. So they're deploying the one asset in theopolitics that they had left, the moral authority of the papacy, to try to peel those voters away. And it didn't work. The Pope blinked. And internationally, he's now even advocating for potential refugees and immigrants to stay in their own countries and work to make those countries better. That sounds a lot like his own terms of surrender to me. And J.D. Vance just accepted that surrender. And the American Catholic laity, from Tom Homan to millions of faithful in the pews, showed the Vatican that the era of top-down progressive papal politics is over. It looks like Leo gets it. But if he doesn't, President Trump will be all too willing and able to remind him.